Yeah.
Summer off then, Rick?
No.
Give a year around.
We got a little side hustle this week. We have 3 county fairs, so we're out today, so I'm not sure how much.
You got any in the car?
You know, we can sell them. Did you know we do that?
No.
It's a family of my wife's family. They've done it for 30 years.
Oh, I think Kasha told me something about that. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order, please. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate that. As you can tell, I am not Mrs. Ayers. I am not Mr. Flack. Neither one of them will be here this evening, so I'm going to start the meeting, and then we will be electing a secretary. So please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance first. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to start with considerations of additions to the agenda. We have some new hires. Oliver Labunda, band summer volunteer. Carrie Schultz as a bus driver. Alicia Griffey as a bus aide. Randy South is communications director. Ashley Rodosevich, okay, thank you, for a U.S. history teacher. And that's all we have for that. Do we have any public comments to start? Okay, wonderful. We now have the swearing in of the appointed board member.
Mr. Shaw was sworn in before the meeting, so we are good to go.
Excellent. So we're going to go ahead and open up for our election of officers. We have a secretary position open. Do I have any nominations for the secretary position?
I'll nominate Mr. Turpinger.
I'll second.
Any other nominations for the floor? Okay, so Mr. Turflinger is our nominee. So all in favor of Mr. Turflinger taking over the secretary position, please raise your hand. Okay, sounds like we have a unanimous, and he will be taking over the meeting from this point on.
Okay, we have a consideration of appointment for our legislative liaison. Nominations?
I'll nominate Mr. Hensley.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? 4 to nothing. Okay, consent items. Minutes. We have the minutes from the June 4th, June 11th, June 24th, and June 28th. It was all in your packets. Entertain a motion to accept them as a group.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Esposito made the motion. Mr. Hensley seconded. All in favor? Mr. Shaw, you're abstaining?
Yeah.
Okay. Claims. July 9th, 2019, which were regular claims. Prepaid claims dated June 1 through June 30, 2019. And payroll claims dated June 14th to June 28th. Which were also in your packets. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Hensley and a second by Mr. Esposito to approve the regular claims as presented. All in favor? 4-0. Okay, now comes the donations. We had a donation of $500 to MES from Gamma Kappa Chapter Kappa Kappa Kappa. a donation of $100 to the Manchester Senior High School Girls Basketball Program from Thorne Insurance Agency, a donation of $250 to the Manchester Junior Senior High School Choir Program from the Indiana League of Municipal Clerks and Treasurers, and that would conclude the donations. I would entertain a motion to accept them.
I'll make a motion. So moved.
Have a motion and a second.
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay. Lost my place there. See, where are we at? Okay, personnel. Here we go. Personnel, MES employment, Randy Myers, third grade teacher, Carrie Sauter, first grade teacher, Hannah Kroll, second grade long-term sub, Benjamin McLaughlin, guidance counselor, resignations, Ashley McMahon, school counselor, Kayla Jablonski, third grade teacher, and a retirement, Tina Hill, first grade teacher. MIS maternity leave, Michaela Monroe, August 29th to November 22nd, depending on when the baby arrives. Stephanie Pinkerton, mid-September 2019 to the start of the second semester 2020. Okay. Manchester Junior Senior High School employment, Jenna Smith, Science Olympiad head coach, Tracy Cummins, instructional aide guidance secretary, Betsy Kiger, study hall supervisor, Bradley Buzzard, 8th grade social studies teacher, Aaron Rethlake, varsity softball head coach, Josh Troyer, varsity girls basketball head coach, Oliver Labuda, band summer volunteer, Ashley Radosevich, U.S. history teacher. Resignations, Brittany Holmes, Manchester Junior Senior High School head softball coach, Jacob Everett, Manchester Junior Senior High School girls varsity basketball coach, digital instructional coach, that was Jacob Everett. Alex Brandywee, social studies teacher and assistant football coach. Logan Haston, Manchester Junior Senior High School Spanish teacher, and then a MAO reduction in force, the digital learning coach position. Employment, Trudy Cahill, special needs bus driver, Carrie Schultz, bus driver, Alicia Griffey, bus aide, and Randy Self, communications director. I have a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Mr. Hensley made a motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Esposito seconded. Any further discussion?
Yeah, real quick, I know this was discussed before. Is there some kind of an outgoing interview with all these people that are leaving our corporation?
Actually, I just developed an exit interview that we're gonna do through Google Forms. I just haven't got it into Forms yet, but I had everybody look at it, a lot of people look at it to see if it was what we wanted. So I just gotta get that done, and I'm just in the process of doing that. So yes,
Okay.
we're working on it.
Wonderful.
Any further discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. New business, girls soccer overnight team building trip, Dr. Lippy.
So we're seeking approval tonight for our girls soccer to attend an overnight team building trip at Lake Webster. Know that lake very well. Should have a good time Mr. Narragan's house, and so we're asking for your approval.
How are they getting there?
Not exactly sure. Do you know, Eric?
If available, they take them in.
Probably depending on the number of students going, is that what you're saying, correct?
It's relatively close. Kids could drive, I'm assuming. But if they need transportation, a minibus, we could provide that.
They might be in a situation with, well, there's another one coming up. Cross Country too has a trip at the same time.
Yep.
So we'll work out transportation. They only take the bus.
Somebody want to make a motion to approve it?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Hensley, you made the motion, Mr. Esposito second. Any further discussion? All in favor? 4-0.
Okay, the next one we've got is a cross-country overnight trip request. Again, this is something the cross-country team has done annually. They go up to the dunes, get some running in. I'm sure they're running up the dunes, probably great conditioning. So we're asking for your approval for that overnight trip.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mr. Shaw and a second by Mr. Hensley to approve the trip. All in favor? 4-0.
Thank you.
Mr. Markham.
Okay, I would like to ask for your approval this evening. As we talked about at the May meeting, payment to classified staff for some e-learning days that we had this last year. I would bring my proposal to you that Manchester Community Schools provides retro pay to classified staff for the e-learning days that occurred on January 29th, 30th, 31st, and February 1st of this last school year. So those 4 days in a row of that week that we were out, classified staff will be paid their normal daily rate for each of the 4 dates indicated. This would only be for the 2018-19 school year. So this would not be anything that we would carry forward at this time. That is something that Dr. Grimaud and myself will continue to look at as we look at e-learning and any changes that we may make in the e-learning process. We will probably come back with some other type of proposal for future years.
Is anybody being left out or short of the day's pay? I'm not familiar with the classified staff versus.
No, this would be bus drivers, cooks, instructional aides, those people that would not regularly report to school on a canceled day.
Thank you.
Yep.
Motion to
Do you-
approve?
Sorry, do you have number of people that is, or approximate?
It would be approximately around 100 people probably or more.
And do you have the approximate dollar amount that
I
we're
don't,
talking about?
That money is budgeted though in our current budget because we would have been in school on those days, so we would have paid them anyway. So that money is in the budget. I don't have that total dollar amount with me though.
Okay. And was 4 days, was that all the e-learning?
We had 9 e-learning days total, and we're recommending paying 4. There was a 5th day that we did make up in May that they were able to get. So half of the missed days they would pay for.
Okay. And is that something we've been doing in the past, or?
Prior to last year, we did not have e-learning, so those days were always made up, so they were always getting paid.
Sure.
So this is our way to hopefully give them a little bit of money back for those days that they had no control of missing, and we know this year was a large amount of missed days than normal. Typically, over the last 4 years, if you take this year out, we missed 3.6 days of school a year, typically to weather, and this year we missed 10, and the state waived some of those, fortunately for us.
Okay. Yeah, I would, yeah, I mean, I guess in the future, if we can get a hard number, that would be great for something like that.
I would entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mr. Esposito and a second by Mr. Hensley to approve payment to classified staff for 4 e-learning days from 2018, 2019 only. All in favor? Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you, and our staff will thank you for that as well.
Mr. Markham, approval of bonds for Kendra Miller, Darla Kane, and
Yes, this is approval of the bonds for basically our ECA treasurers and those people that handle money. It bonds them. So it would be Kendra Miller, Darla Kane, and our 6 ECA treasurers, 4 that are at Manchester Junior Senior High School, 1 at MES and 1 at MIS. So just asking for your approval for these.
have they been bonded in the past?
Yes, every year.
Okay, so we do, this is something we
Yes,
do every
this
year?
would be a yearly occurrence.
Okay, thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Hensley made the motion, Mr. Shaw seconded to approve the bonds for Kendra Miller, Darla Kane, the ECA treasurers for July 1, 2019 to June 30, 2020. All in favor? Mr. Markham.
Okay, next I would ask for your approval to engage in a contract with TM Wells Valuation Services. They are based out of Huntington, Indiana, and what they would do is they would come in and do our fixed assets report. Every year when we get audited, the State Board of Accounts want to see a copy of your fixed assets, and typically it's anything over $5,000, your land and your buses and vehicles and everything that goes with that equipment. And this last year, that was one of the things, our audit that we got dinged on, is we didn't have an up-to-date fixed assets report, and ultimately I couldn't find the one that we wanted to give to them. So what this would do is we would contract them to come in. It would take them 2 to 3 months to get all of this up to date. They would present the material to us in an Excel spreadsheet. They would take photos of things. They would label things and get our fixed assets ledger up to date. And this is something that they do. They currently work with Huntington North, Concord High School, and some other schools. So this is a contract to engage with them to be able to provide this service. It would cost us $6,800 for them to do that, but I think it's money well spent to get our fixed assets ledger up to date, because the next time we're audited, they're going to want to see that, and right now we have none to give them. And this would also suffice our deficiency that we had in the audit from this last year.
Is there a mechanism to make sure, for whatever reason, that wasn't being updated, apparently? Has
Sure.
that been addressed?
Yeah, and this, with using them, again, they would have this in an Excel spreadsheet, and then every year, as we add things or something changes, then I would alert them to that, and they would update the spreadsheet. We would also have a copy that we can update it as well. So it's one of those things, I think, if we use their services for a year, maybe 2 years, then we could get away from their services, and we could update that ourselves yearly and keep it up to date then.
Mr. France, have you looked at this contract?
Yep.
We're good to go?
Yeah, I have no problems with it.
I'd entertain a motion, gentlemen.
So moved.
Mr. Esposito made a motion.
Second.
Mr. Hensley seconded to approve the contract for TM Wells Fixed Assets Contract. Any further discussion? All in favor? 4-0.
Thank you. Now, along with that approved contract, we need to adopt a board policy for what our capital asset policy looks like. And what is presented to you, and this is a first reading, so no action tonight, it's just information for you to look through. But this is what they suggested, TM Wells valuation. This was their suggestion of the policy and what they've done with other schools and what it looks like. And it just defines everything and gives the provisions on all the things that they would look at in this capital assets ledger, and would set the dollar amounts at $5,000 and above for that. So again, first reading, I would bring this back to you in August for final approval to be included into our board policy manual.
So Jeremy, does this include disposition of items when we get rid of assets,
Yes.
like kitchen equipment, furniture?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That would all stay on there, and then they would be designated as what we did, whether it became surplus or whatever. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so all that would be kept track as part of that Excel spreadsheet.
That it, Jeremy?
Yep.
Okay. Looks like the principals are up next. Textbook fees. MES.
Okay, if I go first.
Going by what's on the paper, Doc.
All right, that's all right.
Okay, so, textbook rental. And so what we've done, and I think you've got the list of all of the fees, 2019 and 20. And so what I tried to do is give you a typical look of each grade level. Just a snapshot. It's not every kid's schedule, it's just a typical student in each grade, and kind of give you an idea of how that compares with last year's fees to this year's fees. And so we've got 7th grade up here, kind of up in the left-hand corner. We kind of come down to 8th grade, then freshmen, we jump to the next column, 10th, 11th, and 12th. And so you can see how each class fees, you can see individual fees too, like if you want to go replace a class, like if your student took, instead of STEM in 7th grade, they took a different elective, you can go back through and check all that. But just apples to apples, last year to this year, if you look at a typical 7th grade schedule, you look there, you see some typical 7th grade classes, all the core classes are there. We threw in a STEM, threw in Art 7, Digital Citizenship, Choir Band, some of those fees associated with it. All students have turn it in, vocab 7 through 12, and you total those fees, and you can see that for a 7th grade, it comes out to be $126.13. That's $12, that type of a snapshot compared to last year's classes. Same classes would have been about $12 more this year. You jump down to 8th grade, same thing, add up some typical classes, that ends up being 73 cents less. Some of these books, you get to like a certain year, 5th or 6th, and the price drops because it's an older book. Some are a little higher because it might be a new adoption, a classroom set, it might be a digital license that we got from a particular class. If you could bring that up so we can see freshmen, the 9th grade over there in the lower left-hand corner, tally up some of their typical classes, and you see that it's less by $4.36. So these are very, very similar. Sometimes, some years you see them huge jumps. Very rarely do you see them drop really low. This is average values is what we've seen. So we've done up here to sophomores, the 10th graders there in the right-hand corner. You can tally up some of the typical classes that a 10th grader might take. $4.28 more compared to last year, that same set of classes. Juniors, a little less because there was an AP class that we no longer use that, a particular resource there, so some of that money dropped off. There's $16.75 less for juniors with those same types of classes. And then we see our seniors, they're $3 more. Now, at the end of each one of these is the new Chromebook and the new Chromebook cover. It's a great device. This new Chromebook that all these kids are getting clear down to, where are we going, down to 3rd? Or are we going all the way to kindergarten? Touch screen Chromebooks, that's an awesome device. The current Chromebooks that these kids use are not touch screens. Just gives you a lot more diversity of activities that you can do on this. Greater battery life. and also greater storage. So they're getting a much better device. And then, of course, the cover that comes with that to protect these, a little more sensitive device with a touch screen. A little bit, I think, is that a little bit higher, I would guess, the cover, comparatively speaking. And so you can see the totals for all these kids, and I think you'll see the same with Amy's TBR. You'd see the same thing added to MIS's TBR. So if there's a little difference in last year's overall, it would be due to a nicer Chromebooking cover. That's the biggest increase that we see across the district in TBR, and you would see that with each of the schools. I don't know if we need these. Do we approve these, Teresa? Do we need to approve these, or are we sharing them?
It says on here that yes, we do need to.
Yeah, and so registration's coming up. That's why we bring these to you today. Registration's at the end of the month, kind of going into August. And so pretty much similar costs of what we've seen. They've stayed stagnant, at least at the junior, senior high school, 7 through 12.
Everybody lay on your rights.
All right, if you can all lean to one side. For MIS, I have the breakdowns. You don't have the whole detail there. I think you might have it, but by subject. But here's the breakdown by grade. As we look at these, there has not been a lot of change. Like he said, the one item that we look at, and I'll compare this year to last year, is we have the one-time Chromebook case that is going in this year. That one-time Chromebook fee is $25 for the case. They're buying that case. So that automatically added $25 to everything for this 1 year. All right, that will not be included then next year because they'll own the case. So that is $25 added on. The Chromebooks over last year are $13 more than what they were last year. So that's not a big amount, but that $25 when you figure it in. So on 4th grade, our fees for this coming year, we're looking at $230. That is an increase over last year of $12.59. But if you take off that Chromebook cover, that one-time fee, we've actually been able to drop our fees, textbook fees, by $12.41. So while we've added some, we've taken some away. 5th grade has gone up a little bit. It's an increase of $29.54, and that is, if you take out the Chromebook case, that's $4.54 increase. We're doing some new software in the English language arts that we want to try this year. It's a program called Newzella that we're really excited about. And so we're trying that in 5th grade, and that caused that basically a $5 increase, and that's mostly where that's coming from. 6th grade, $243 is the fee. That is up $22. But if you take off the Chromebook, like I said, we have dropped our overall fees by $2.88. So going forward, we're seeing a decrease in 4th and 6th grade, a little bit of an increase in 5th grade, but we do have that one-time fee, which is the Chromebook case. So, not trying to blame technology for that, but we've got to have those cases, and they need to be purchased right up front.
Any questions from Randy from the board?
I try to keep my costs at or around $100. Mike Pettibone thought that was a good amount. He thought we could use it as marketing. So kindergarten is exactly $100. Because we are done with our textbook rental for language arts, we are no longer funding that. We have a new curriculum that doesn't use a big textbook, which is the costly part. So we are done with that license, and we're using something else which is much cheaper, which is great because now we're integrating more technology. So we are spending money on things like apps and websites and things to enhance our instruction. So kindergarten's at $100. First grade stayed about the same at $102. Second grade was about the same as last year, $118. Third grade went up a little bit. We also have a technology fee. We are not buying cases because our Chromebooks are not going to go home until we feel that our students are really integrated with them. So that's an extra cost that we didn't think we needed to add at this time. But they are a little bit higher because they have more curriculum on their Chromebook, and we have to pay for that as well. So it's at $146. So any questions? Okay.
Thank you. I think we can make a motion and approve.
Hold on a second. So textbooks, just so I know, is this like net cost to us, or is there markup in textbooks?
Well, you have, say it's $30,000, and you divide that over how many, say, third graders you have, 110. So if it's $30,000, you divide it over 110 kids over, is it 5 or 6 years? 5 years. So then you divide that up and you pay a little bit every year. But now that we have so much technology, we don't really use a lot of textbooks. So that fee goes down, which is awesome because they become outdated so quickly, but then our technology fee goes up, so.
Yeah, from the license with the electronic version?
Yeah, but we don't make money on it, no.
No, that was just a simple question. Do we mark up? So.
No.
So the 113 for the Chromebooks, is that like a payback to the money we just decided to spend? The $400 and some thousand dollars or whatever we approved the last time?
Yes.
Okay. That goes back in the budget then?
Goes back into our textbook rental costs, yes.
Okay. So the fees we charge for Heartland and Squire Academy? I saw there's a little fee there called interdisciplinary. Why do we charge that?
$45.
I mean, it's small, but I mean, I just kind of wondered why we,
That's the charge that we incur for that. I don't know how that works into the budget, Jeremy, but that's what we charged over the years. I have no idea how that originated at $45. It's always been $45 since I've been here.
for Heartland.
Yeah.
And then $62.50 for Squire Academy.
For 2 semesters. If they're enrolled in APEX, they have to pay for their APEX seat. And so that's basically, their convenience part.
Okay.
So.
I mean, what's the purpose of the fee, I guess, is the question I'm asking.
Those that take APEX, it pays for their.
Or Heartland or Squire Academy, yeah.
I don't know that answer.
I mean, it's not that much, I'm just asking a question, so.
I'll find out. I'm not sure on the
We can
Heartland one.
dig into it, because I don't know the answer. I would
I'm
assume it's
I'm
for
just-
supplies there.
So we pay for this stuff with taxpayer money, right? And I'm just trying to figure out where, it's like airlines and stuff like that. When I see fee, I just want to know why and where it's going and things like that. So nothing major, I just want to know. So, okay, thank you.
Motion to approve the textbook fees for 2019-2020.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Hensley made a motion.
Second.
Mr. Esposito, second. All in favor? Motion carries 4-0. Second reading of the student handbook changes.
Mine's quick and easy. Okay, so my changes are minimal. We're adding the attendance mediation, just like the others, it's the same wording. We are removing a few things. We no longer do snack milk, so I took that off. One thing Becky recommended is that we do away with the alternate lunch. So if a student doesn't have money in their lunch account, we have people that donate money to kind of float them along. And then if it comes to the point where they're chronic abusers or whatever, we gave them a lunch ticket and they got a peanut butter sandwich and a milk only. So we kind of struggled with that because we certainly don't want kids to not be fed. So they will no longer have an alternate lunch. We'll deal with the money as it on an individual basis, but there's no longer an alternate lunch. So kids will be fed, which is awesome. And then, oh, you used to have to turn your car keys in, but now that we have Raptor, we don't need the car keys, so we just slap a badge on them and we're good to go. So those are the only changes for me.
Thank you.
The junior senior high school handbook changes are the same as last month. I'll go through them real quick. It's the CBD oil provision, the one to, in case to treat CBD oil as a medication. Of course, it would have to be the low to no THC content. The removal section pertaining to weighted grades. We no longer have weighted grades. That was graduated with this year's class. Changing to a more progressive tardy discipline scale and adding some language in our graduation requirements to reflect the current Indiana law regarding pathways, which we did opt into this year. And changing a section in the attendance regarding Heartland and internship attendance, since we would like to increase our internships and students going to Heartland, just clarifying some of our attendance rules for that. And adding a refusal to submit to search to the discipline section if a student refuses a search of their car, for instance, in the parking lot, adding that into the discipline section.
What about the lunchtime detention? Is that still in there?
Yeah, lunch detention is, it's as far as what we do with lunch, that has not changed.
So the Heartland Internship, explain that a little bit.
So just to clarify in our attendance section, sometimes in the high school, we have students who think they're an internship. It's part of school. If you're in an internship, you are to be at school that day, or at your internship. Sometimes students may think, well, I don't want to go to an internship today and just stay home today. Well, it's just to clarify to make sure students and parents, all stakeholders know that, you have to call in just like you would for any other missed absence at school.
Good.
Yeah.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, and you might not be the person to ask this question, but in the climate audit, it was mentioned that, obviously we don't need a driving policy at MIS, but is there some collaboration to unifying these student handbooks between the buildings so that what we're teaching a fourth grader, he knows that that's going to be there until he's a senior? Obviously your book's going to be bigger than the one at MIS and that, but I know in the climate audit they talked about making the policies consistent across the district. Has there been any work on that, or is that on somebody's radar?
I personally have not worked on the collaboration with the handbooks in other schools, but I just work on the junior senior high school handbook.
And certainly there are aspects that can overflow from one building to another, but there's some that are specific to those buildings. But we can certainly take a look at that for next year and see if there's anything we could do to unify that, help parents out a little bit.
I can speak to that just real quickly. It's been quite a few years ago, we realigned all the handbooks and we had them all, I don't want to say they're not all the same because you do have age appropriate.
Right.
And there are building specific, like you said, the driving, building specific things. But I think your point is taken that, it's time to probably go back and realign a few of those things as we've made some changes and some of the laws have changed. So we need to look at that and getting them put together. But there are a lot of similarities in those, just age appropriate what they are. Once again, nothing changed from last time. Our big change is, and it's not a big change, is the attendance mediation that we've put into place. And like I said, we've used that this year and we're putting that in the handbook and it's been very successful.
Any questions from board members? Motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Shaw, seconded by Mr. Hensley to approve the second reading of student handbook changes for the 3 buildings. Student online securely web service, Mr. Miller. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I got ahead of myself. All in favor? Motion carries.
Back in May, I presented about the Chromebooks. I discussed that we were also going to make some enhancements to our online security. And what I sent to you earlier are those costs and the applications we're looking to add. Just to quickly go over those, these will all be from Securely Inc., who we use for our web filter currently. And what we're going to do is add protection to where we're scanning student emails, we're looking at their Google Drive for appropriateness, self-harm, bullying, and things like that. So that would be the Auditor Premium. Securely 24 adds another layer to that, where if something is detected, instead of us just receiving an email that we forward off then to the principals, Securely 24 actually has live analysts look at what was sent. And so those analysts then decide, is this something I can email or text the principals? Or is this something I need to make a phone call to a school official? Or is this something I need to call the police about immediately to get taken care of? So there's certainly a level that's escalated. It's definitely the premium package, but I think when we talk about student safety, this is important. The next package would be Tip Line, and that provides a 24-hour anonymous method for students to report concerns, all right, that they may see. Somebody doing something inappropriate, maybe carrying a gun, or as an example. And what this would do is allow 4 ways for a student to report that: email, text, phone, or a website. Okay, so again, we talked about adding security to the device, to the students, and we're going to get our parents involved with this. And then the last piece is Chrome Tools. And what Chrome Tools does is provide the teachers a method in their classroom to monitor what the students are looking at on their Chromebook, what they have access to at that point in time. So a teacher could lock them into some Indiana history site. Or they could block them out of an Indiana history site if that's where the quiz was based off of, right? And teachers would then also have the opportunity to go and look at their computer quickly and see, you know, I have 20 people on task and I got 3 people on ESPN and 1 person on YouTube. And so they can monitor and manage their class. Along with that, obviously, well, that's what we are requesting to purchase, and what that breaks down to is 3 years at $17,629.92. Okay? We will also sit down and work with our teachers, give them training, give them better methods of classroom management using their devices. That's something we've lacked. And then work with students and parents on better education on what we can do, what we are doing for them, and what they can do to better protect themselves and better protect their children. So I would request approval for this amount.
Can I ask a question before
Please.
somebody makes a motion? Do we have references from other school systems that are using this system?
Sure. I've talked to the people at Wawasee. One of the Fort Wayne school systems, I can't remember if it's Southwest Allen or Northeastern Allen, that I talked to about this back in May. We get together every other month, so we have discussions about this. They also have, what Securely will tell you is that they've saved over 450 lives in the past year due to their software package.
And I also have firsthand experience with that in my former corporation, so excellent product. It does a nice job catching kids.
Next question, it seems like it could be a challenge for administrators, like how obviously in support of protecting our students, but are we staffed well enough to respond?
So false positives were an issue in the very beginning of this, where somebody would mention, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but they would talk about hitting something, or they may talk about grabbing alcohol, but use the word alcohol, and that would be triggered. They've focused those down and narrowed down so that those false positives are minimal now. We probably only get, under our current, maybe 4 or 5 when school's in session a week, I would say was probably the last month on average. With the Securely 24, each of those get reviewed by a live person. And so the false positives, we would say, would go down significantly. So I don't believe that we're going to be adding a major workload onto the staff.
So we have a system already in place, or is
So
it?
we're using the free version of Auditor Premium that just looks at the emails, sends an email off to the IT department. When we catch that email, because why we live with our phone on our hips, we do get away from them occasionally. So there could be a delay in there, and they don't have a live person reviewing that. So an example would be in May, we received an email, and it was about somebody who wanted to harm themselves. And that went to my IT person, who it was a couple hours before they were able to read the email. And then he forwarded that email onto myself, our SRO, and to the principal. And just to make sure that people saw that, I called the principal at that point in time. But there was probably a 2.5-hour delay in that. So certainly it's a Securely 24, by having that live person, they would be able to look at that, assess via a rubric, what's the actual threat here? Is this just somebody joking around or not? Serious, and again, make that appropriate. Hey, so-and-so, they're kind of goofing off, they're talking about this, we'll email the principal, okay? Or do we call the principal, or do we call the police to take immediate action?
So the calls or emails could potentially go directly to the principal instead of to the IT department?
Yes.
Okay.
With the current system?
Our current system only sends an email to the IT department.
Do our administrators have some sort of protection, liability? 24 alludes to the fact that this is 24 hours a day. If there's a alert at 1:30 a.m., we don't respond.
It's a phone call to their cell phone, and the next alternative would be to the police department.
But if we don't respond and something unfortunate happens, would a parent have a case against one of our administrators or the school system?
I don't know the answer to that.
Does it induce liability, right?
Right.
So another point, what kind of contract is this under for privacy? So I don't know these people, and neither do you, right? San Jose, California?
Right.
So they're gonna read every email and have the ability to read every email and text that a student sends on these Chromebooks?
The first
And administrator?
level of filtering is done via robots, okay? When they trap something, then that is where the
Elevated through a hierarchy?
elevated to the person, right, to the live person.
How many incidents do we have on a yearly basis with the current system?
Again, we were seeing 4 to 5 a week on average last month. How much of those were just fooling around and stuff like that, I couldn't we pass those off, so I did not assess any of those.
Did anyone in the school corporation assess those?
Those usually went to the counselors, they would talk to the students, and as far as any action after that, that's private, and I wouldn't have access to that.
But we don't like keep a tally chart of incidents? Isn't that state reporting now when we have some type of incident? We have to keep information. I know it is because I forced the legislation.
If it's been reported, like through Power School or something, you're right, yeah. A write-up, yeah. We're interviewing a student, sure, yeah. But we've never done that before. This is new. I mean, we've never reported on something.
When do we ever talk about those incidents? So okay, we want to spend $18,000, and I'm not totally against this, don't get me wrong. One concern I have is privacy of that information. If it's sold to third party, what these people do, well, do you know that for sure?
It's in the contract.
Okay, that's in the contract. The other thing I have is, so we're talking about putting, and I don't think this is a bad idea in any way, but we're talking about putting this here. When are we going to get serious about putting somebody in these schools? And I know what the counselors do. When are we going to get serious about putting a mental health counselor or a socio-emotional person in these schools to address this in a preventive measure instead of like trying to filter stuff out of emails and stuff like that? I mean, that's the thing that bothers me about this is it's constantly, we put police in school, we talk about arming people, now we're going to get on security on internet. I never hear anybody in the school system talk about what we're going to do preventative with these skill sets, this life coaching with the kids. It can't, Ben's sitting over there, right? There's youth first, the youth ministry. No, there's a good guy that's in there. I've seen him working with the kids in schools trying to prevent these things from, and I'm not against this. I'm just saying, I'd like at some point, I'd like us to talk about some partners for Nate and these SRO officers trying to work with these kids on life coaching. Put it in the curriculum, do something with it, put some bodies in this school that deal with this versus like, okay, this to me is appraisal. So and it's a good thing, I think, we're looking at the emails, we're looking at, they still have their phones and texting and stuff that you can't touch, right? So this is just on the Chromebook, but I'm just seeing like we're touching the iceberg of this thing to prevent like God forbid, some shooting or something like that. It all starts with something fairly unique, right, that kind of builds up the thing. So I'm not totally against this. I'd just like us to really start taking a look at a preventive measure within these school systems. And I know, I think, hiring you is a good job in a counselor because I know how you relate to the kids and stuff like that, and nothing against the current counselor. I'd just like to start seeing us get serious about preventing text and things like this from happening, because again, once this happens, I'm also concerned, to Rick's point, is does this induce liability onto the administration? It's kind of like with businesses. If you go do a safety audit and you find safety problems, SDI is a good example, right? They just got to find, who knows what'll happen civilly. If you induce certain things like this, then we better make sure we have the people to address it. If it's 24/7, then who's going to do that? As a school, we're kind of taking on a responsibility, and I don't have a problem with that, right? You take on a lot of responsibilities with schools. I'm just kind of making a statement that I'd like to start really looking at what we can do with this, and somehow in the curriculum get life skills in there or life coaching or something. Maybe it's already in it, and maybe I'm stupid to that fact that we do that in the schools already. But I don't, I just don't kind of see we're not putting the resource in a preventative measure to things. I would say this is getting closer to it where we're doing appraisal, right? Trying to stop incidents before they happen. So, sure. I mean, I'm not against it. I'm just, $18,000 and we got, you got an external service. I just worry about privacy and then, to Rick's point, induced liability. If we better, what can of worms you open up, you better be able to handle it, from this standpoint.
Sorry, I thought you were done.
No, I'm good.
I have a couple questions. Mike and I were at a seminar in the School Board Association put on in Indianapolis. They talked about cybersecurity and ransomware. Letting this outfit in, are we giving somebody a back door if this company gets hacked or sold into our system? And my other question is, if we looked at other vendors, is there a possibility of bundling our cybersecurity and ransomware with something like this?
So the cybersecurity and ransomware is a separate issue, okay? That is, yeah, the traffic and what people can do to bring in unwanted traffic. This isn't through Google. It uses the Google, which is obviously off-premise from us. And so that traffic goes through securely for our web filtering. And security-wise, they have the highest level of securities possible. This is a widely used product throughout school systems across the nation. Doesn't mean that something can't happen, but they certainly have a high level of security. So again, then the cybersecurity and ransomware is something that has to do with training primarily. So somebody doesn't click on that email that says, hey, here's the login, and we're continually adding information, and we've entered into an agreement with Safe Schools, which is going to offer some of that type of training to our staff. And so we're starting to introduce more and more things like that, but kind of two different directions.
Well, I understand that. I was asking about bundling it and maybe getting a better deal from a different
We are bundling it because we're already using this company.
Okay.
And so we're using it with other products, and we are getting a favorable price with that. We did look at a company out of Fishers for some of that, and they were probably about 15% higher.
Okay, and what is the total cost? Because I got two different numbers here. There's a 52,889.76 on one of these sheets for Chrome tools, filter, tip line discounts. And then over here it says 48,081.
Sure. So because we're financing it for 3 years, there's a finance fee on that.
Okay, next question, I guess, goes to Mr. Markham. Where's this money coming from? Can we save ourselves $10,000 here and pay for this all at once?
I would recommend paying for it yearly, I would recommend paying for it annually with the 17,000 over 3 years. Well, 17,000 for this next year, then 17,000 the following year, and 17,000.
Okay, I thought it was 58, it's 52. So we're only looking at $4,000 in interest fees. Do we have a policy regarding this? I mean, what happens if the robot picks up something and sends it out there and it comes back and somebody ends up with personal information about a student that doesn't really have anything to do with school? Somebody's pregnant, somebody has an abortion, you know, a word trips it. You know, I'll just throw that out there as an example. Do we have a policy wrote before we dive into this? I don't mean to put you on the spot, I'm just asking a question.
I'm trying to understand the scenario, Dave.
Kill it.
Right.
Okay, and that trips the trigger, and then when the email's open, it's like, well, I can't kill a baby.
Right. So if it says kill it, the robot picks that up. It goes off to a live person who then evaluates that. And then again, if they feel that there is what level of threat that there is, they're either going to email it to one of the principals, or they're going to call the principal or the local authorities. So I'm not sure what policy would be in there. They would hand over a name to a student name to check on, yes.
I mean, who's gonna do the check, I guess? You gonna call the parents? I'm just not clear about the process of this thing. Here, I'm not gonna vote on this yet. Before I ask you, there's the administrators, there's the MTA. We got a couple teachers in here. That's what do you guys think about this? Yes or no?
My last district used it in grade, so we had no problem.
You got no, you guys are gonna be dealing with it, not me, so.
I had one hit this year, and that was it. It was sent to me, so.
We had several that when we got the information, the guidance counselor handled most of it. It was, just threats between students or something like that. We did have the one situation, I won't go into detail, but I ended up at the home very late at night with the police about a student who was going to harm themselves. And it was a very good thing that the filter caught that, and it was sent in an email.
So that's the current filter?
Yes, the current one, and that is on, and it was on, once again, it was on a school device, on school email, which we have the right and the responsibility to search.
Okay. How about Dr. Lippy?
So we have a few of these a week come in, and Mr. Fisher, it's off of a word, of certain words. When we first did this, it was wild, wild west. And so it was crazy. Like, you've got great insights, Mr. Estes, that I might even ask these questions, because it was crazy. Like, we were getting bombed at first.
Yep, probably 30 to 40 a week.
It was nuts. We came to our counselor meeting, and all of us were like, there's nothing we can do. We're trying to run these down. Like, is there a liability if we don't run these down? Like, it looks like a wild goose chase. Well, what happens if one's not? Are we? Because we were running, like, we didn't have enough manpower. So I thought that was a great inquiry.
But one life saved is worth it, right?
So it would be a concern for me if going to student, I'm just transparent, if going to this student now increases this again like it did the first time, I would be concerned. I don't know how we'd follow all that up. I know my counselors would be concerned by that as well. I don't know that it will, so I don't necessarily want to run us down now. I don't know, maybe it's 3 or 4 weeks.
Right, and let me
We should be aware of now 24 hours a day, 3 in the morning, I didn't answer my phone, something bad happened because I didn't answer my phone. That's a concern. Like, I don't know.
And again, that gets escalated up to the local law enforcement.
Okay.
It bypasses, excuse me.
Yeah, if they try the phone, they may have a secondary phone number that they would try, depending on how we set it up. If not, it's going to escalate to the local authorities. And just to kind of piggyback on what John said, this is our current system that we have been using for the last 6 months. We used a different, earlier version of this, and we worked with them to, again, minimize the false positives. You know, when a student was going out and doing research on alcohol poisoning or something like that, that triggered.
So you decreased the filters on the system, right?
Pardon?
You decreased the filters on the
I would
system?
not say it was decreased. They were able to take and look at the content, what the student was looking at via the research and other students and their search, and determine that this was something that they were doing for education purposes. If you have 20 kids that are searching on alcohol poisoning from your school system, and you see that they're going out to health sites and things like that, they're able to make a reasonable determination that this is an educational process that they're going to, right? That was the old system, though, that didn't do that. So we worked with them through pretty much the first half of last year, and that reduced the number of false positives significantly. And I think what John saw the second half of the year was quite a few less emails.
It wasn't an issue this last semester. I will say this, since you asked, the Chrome tools, though, and being able to see teachers, that's a tool they're going to love, because they've been asking for that for a long time. Like, being able to be at their desk or in front of the room and see what every kid, that's what you're saying right there. That is huge. They're going to kiss you for Chrome tools. They're going to love that, because they're all asking for me. All about that. So whether you go down this other road or not, the teachers are going to love Chrome tools, because they've been begging for this for years. So
that's the number one complaint teachers have about technology is the monitoring.
It is hard.
It's really hard.
And you had
Chromebooks are easier than iPads, but it's still a problem.
That's awesome. They love it.
I have another question here before we call the question. Mark, have you reviewed this contract?
Yep. General principle is the smaller the font, want, the more concern I have.
Well spoken.
But the contract's definitely not written in our favor. It doesn't protect us all that well, especially for data leaks, somebody's getting privacy information. But I can't say whether or not this is different from the terms and services for the version we're already using. So I can't say if this adds or decreases any liability on us. But I didn't see anything that would be a red flag for me to say absolutely no chance to sign this.
What would you think about the board tabling it until you have time to research it a little more?
Generally with companies like these, even if I have a concern with the terms and services, they don't modify them for people. They say take it or leave it. So I don't think tabling it would do much good. But I can certainly look into it if you want me to.
I have another question. I apologize if I didn't read this as thoroughly as I should have before the meeting. But this will monitor emails, and if I'm reading this piece of paper, it says, how does 24 work? It says emails and social media posts, Facebook, Twitter, G+, are flagged by our sentiment analysis and sent to the 24-hour team. So this will also monitor social media posts?
Only if they're accessing that social media via our device. And they're only limited to Twitter on that.
Okay.
Okay. So they're tracking
Thank
that
you.
traffic and looking at that information if it's available.
Is there Mark, is there an opt-out? If this is a 3-year commitment?
Yes.
It's every 12 months. You have to give them notice 30 days before the end of that 12th year.
Okay.
They probably don't allow you to pilot certain sections of it prior.
We've been piloting pieces of this for the last couple of years since we've been using Securely as our filtering. The auditor is the main piece. We've not used the 24. We have looked at Chrome tools and tested that. We were part of some of the early betas of that.
I'll move to approve.
Tony, do we have the option to try this for a year?
We would have totally different pricing.
How much different?
Can you ask for a second, please?
Yeah. Do I have a second?
I'm still trying to figure out the value in my head, Dave. So I know it's, we've talked about this. So you got a current system. So this replaces the current system?
Enhances it.
Enhances it.
Right.
What's our cost of the current system?
Let me restate that. No additional cost to our filtering. And I don't have those numbers on top of it.
So the 24 is a free component?
It's included.
The rest of it is what you guys were talking about, the Chromebook controls?
So we currently are using a product called Auditor, all right? And what I'm proposing is a product called Auditor Premium, which again digs deeper into the Google Drive, specifically looking for that, as well as the email messages. And then adding the Securely with 24, which adds the live response piece to it. And then the tip package so that we can, again, enhance not only, not everything is via the text, the emails, and things like that, but conversations that are had in the restroom, things that are seen. So giving our students a chance to be able to report that anonymously. And again, threat assessments done on that. And then again, the Chrome tools, as was spoken to, for our staff.
I'm going to make a comment here. Since we don't have a full board here tonight, and we have a motion, and so far we don't have a second, would you mind getting with the company and find out what they would charge us to do this as a 1-year trial and bring it back next month? And
Well, I haven't really said I won't second it. I'm just trying to get a little more information on it. So I'm trying to figure out the value of $18,000 and what exactly those components are.
Right. I mean, you can look at the quote as far as that goes. We're talking for the monitoring, $21,000 for 3 years. divide that down to a little over 7,000.
So that's just the 24 part?
That's the 24
Just have a
hour
person
monitoring
looking at
live response, yes.
And then what's the
The auditor premium, where it deep dives into the Google Slides, Google Docs, Google
$7,000.
Drive, that's 73 divided by 3. And then the tip line, again, is 73 divided by 3. Okay. And then the Chrome tools would be the 17,000 divided by 3.
and that's the big,
That's the teacher piece, right.
I'm going to correct my statement, I misspoke. The initial term is 3 years, we're locked into that. After that, then it's every year. So we can't get out of it after the first year.
And again, I mean, and I appreciate the concerns. You know, I've worked with a lot of other school systems, and they're employing very similar systems through other vendors, but many of our school systems, the local, have moved to Securely as their filtering, and they're adopting this. So my concern has been minimal as far as its functionality. You know, the need, one kid.
And Tony, that's kind of my concern is, I mean, it's, unfortunately, when you're talking about this stuff, it's pretty easy sell for them, right? Because they can say the same thing. And who wouldn't agree with that statement?
Right.
The question is, what else could you do with the 18 grand? I mean, that's the question.
I can't do much more with monitoring their electronic.
Right, not what you could do, but what we could do is more my question. So, because, yeah, I mean, if you look at it, 17 grand to save a life, yeah, sure, you know, that's easy. It's an easy decision, but,
Conversations and happens on our devices.
yeah.
Okay, we
The
have a
reason I-
motion.
Yeah, go ahead.
We have a motion by
The reason I
Mr.
moved was-
Esposito. Do we have a second? Or do we want to?
go ahead, Rick.
No, it's fine. If somebody will second, I'll make a comment.
I'll second.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hearing Dr. Grimeau, hearing Mrs. Kors, Mr. Self, and Dr. Lippy, that's what moved me, and it's hearing the teachers' desire to have the ability to monitor the devices. And I think it'd be great if we could save a life, but if we can address the bullying and give students an anonymous way to report, I think it's a benefit. It's a good start.
And if you look at the overall cost of the computers themselves at $450,000, it's kind of a small percentage. I mean, I like it. I was just trying to figure out what it's like a all or nothing kind of package here is how it's presented. I'm just trying to figure out what Securely, the tip line, what each one of these are bringing over to the table versus what you're currently doing.
Right.
So I'll take your,
I think it is a very comprehensive package, but I know when we talked about it, Dr. Grimeau and I and Jeremy, which of these would you leave out, right?
Yeah.
And as we talked about student online safety, and I got to tell you guys, I appreciate these questions because I think these are things that these people have out there, and so being asked and trying to answer them is an okay thing.
So you currently have a policy with what you do with this information as far as administrators and teachers? And that's not.
It's a policy.
We've got procedures. We have a procedure.
We check them out.
So it's really not that much different than if somebody says, hey, so-and-so told me this in the hallway.
Right.
Right? I mean, we just have this electronically now.
Yeah, that's a lot of information. I mean, if it's, so.
And it'd be interesting to hear a monthly report of how many flags.
Sure.
I don't need to know specifics, but.
That's really kind of what I'm after too. I mean, we put legislation in years ago on these incidents of bullying and nobody publicizes them, nobody talks about them. Half of them are probably, I won't use the word whitewash, but, so I mean, there's, like The only thing I'm uncomfortable with is what do we do with this information? Who's responsible? Are we liable? And then when do we put, I'm like a numbers guy, right? And maybe I don't need to know that. Maybe that's going too far into the administration of the school. But as a school board member, if we're gonna make an investment, I like to know a baseline where we were and then what this did for us. And you're right, man, if it keeps one kid from even getting beat up, forget life, right? If it avoids one conflict, it's probably worth 17 grand.
But I can certainly give to Dr. Gameau those numbers so that they can go into her weekly reports on a monthly basis, I guess.
And it doesn't have to be any detail. I'd just like to know what, you know, how many incidents do we have, and then we're spending money, so what is it really doing? I mean, the numbers need to be zero, but they probably never will because kids are human too. So, okay, thanks, Tony.
So how would this work if, say, you're getting ready to go to vacation to Colorado and Mr. Bisher's in Ohio? Do you guys take turns putting each other on call? I mean, could Amy be on call for your building?
We've never done that before.
Although when I'm out, they cover me.
If you're talking about during the school year, that's different. We do cover for each other during the school year. But we've never had time.
Well, yeah, in summer you probably
5 o'clock.
Yeah.
You're taking tips like this at 5, 6, 7, 8, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. I would just, if we get 30 of these a week, if this causes this to jump, we have concern. I don't know how we'd ever follow up. I can't sit here and tell you if we could do that. I don't know how we would do that. If it's like what it was the last semester, 4 or 5 weeks, and most of these are during the school day, we don't have a problem because that just helps us out, kind of gets out in front of things.
And that was where I was going with asking for the 1 year and try it. If it turns into a nightmare, we can get out of it.
It was, I think, 30 a day, to be honest with you, when it first started. That was overwhelming. We couldn't do anything but that, and we didn't know which ones not to go to. Like, seriously, we're like, are we liable? There's stuff to do, but this thing's calling over here.
So why can't we bring a person into the school that does life coaching and socio-emotional, a true professional in that arena that takes care of this stuff? That's my question. That's really what's in the back of my head here. So we got software out there and we're finding these issues, and then we're kind of launching them to administrators. When do we put the resource forward to really do something with it?
We have that. That's what guidance counselors do. We spend a lot of time teaching social and emotional learning. It's in fact one of our special rotations.
So your counselors they can handle those issues?
Yes. That's
Must have changed since my girls were in school.
Yeah.
Okay, and not knocking anybody. That's the question I'm having. Is it?
It's unusual that an elementary school has a full-time guidance counselor, so don't cut him or anything, but
No.
the fact that we have our own and we don't share with another school is unusual.
Good, that's good to hear.
And
I
we
mean,
use the heck out of our counselor. When I'm out of the building, he'll fill in, Ashley filled in all the time, and just nonstop. I mean, he will handle, not the discipline part, like the punitive part, but he handles all of that. That's the first person.
and I know him pretty well, and I've seen him in action, and that gives me a lot better feeling to hear that, to be honest with you.
Well, that's one reason we hired him.
Because I did, I've had different experiences with my kids in the school when incidents have happened, but that's, 2 years disconnected or 3 years disconnected, so that's really what I'm after, is what are we gonna do when we find these things? Can you handle it? Can you handle the load? Who's got the liability? And then what do we do to resolve them in a sustainable fashion?
We teach whole school, whole class lessons, and then we also do small group lessons for students that have trauma, anything that they might need, social skills.
Is that in junior high too?
At the intermediate school, yes.
In high school?
Brenda Yoakum is there, and she's doing both of those as well.
That's what the counselors are doing most of the day.
Good.
They're taking things like this on. They're trying to get out in front of, be proactive. Scheduling really occurs at one block of the year, okay? That's in January for us, and then master schedule through spring. But I'm telling you what, their time is dominated by talking kids down. That's what I do a lot of times. That's what James does a lot. We end up getting our hands into trying to de-escalate issues out there, trying to deal with trauma that's happening outside the outdoors. We don't come and report on that, right? I mean, you don't hear that on tape, so you wouldn't think that was much of what our day is, but it's a big part of our day, dealing with these, just all the stuff.
I know coaches do too,
All the
right?
stuff
I mean,
kids have to
athletic,
walk in with, guys.
Nate,
It's just a lot of
good,
stuff.
good.
Like I said, the Chrome tools, the tip line, I don't have an issue with. I got an issue with the auditor premium and the cost, and the fact that once we say yes to this, we're stuck for 3 years. And I'd really like to see us try this for a year, just for the simple reason of what Dr. Lippy says. It's looking at so many more things. If this creates an administrative nightmare, I'd like to be able to get out of it and look at something else, or maybe adjust the contract.
Tony, is this a situation where we can adjust filtering and on the fly during this 3-year period?
Yes, we can adjust filtering, our web filtering. Can we adjust the, what it traps and things? No.
Okay. So somehow you were able to bring those 30 per week down to 5.
That was working with them on their system, basically.
But we aren't going to have that opportunity with this
Yeah,
system?
we could, I mean, if we get false positives, we can certainly report those and deal with those and help tweak those. So we don't have any, right at the moment, I can set for our overall web filtering, close off sites, open up sites for them, but I can't really go in and tweak things personally. I can work with their engineering crew, so yes, in
Okay.
that respect, so. Yeah. This is the top of the line stuff here, so.
So we had a motion, we had a second, we gonna vote?
Any other comments or questions from the board?
Nope, I think I'm satisfied.
I think I need him to read his motion again,
All right.
or make his motion again.
Right,
Or-
Oh, you want his motion, I'm sorry.
Yeah, make your
Motion
motion.
approved.
Okay,
Second.
I thought Mr. Hensley seconded it.
Nope.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? I'm gonna abstain.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, no, it's windy road, but we had to go there.
Thanks for all your time,
That's kind
Tony.
of it's like wands, right?
Pardon?
It's kind of like the security wands when you get into it. I just want to, I just kind of know what we're, I think my question to the principals and teachers satisfied me a bit, and welcome aboard, Ben. But I've known the guy for a long time, so.
Protecting our students can be sticky. So I'm out a little cycle with my principals as far as handbooks. I usually present late because of some of the technology changes we make. Very simple changes, guys, in that we're addressing the change in device and some of the costs. I believe you have that in your packet, but just to go over it real quick, the technology handbook currently says for grades 4 through 12, since we're one-to-one device K through 12, we're going to drop the 4 through 12 off of that. The next is that under section 3A terms, we talk about the terms that can have that device, and basically we're stating that the Chromebook must remain in the shell that we're going to provide. And the shell is this piece of clear plastic and rubber edges to protect it on drops. 4B, we talk about the device fee is $100, non-prorated, and because we are increasing the cost and we're adding the cost for the elementary school, I've added that $113 for grades 4 through 12, $35 for grades K through 3. Different device, more capabilities. So under 4C, the current replacement cost has changed from $298 to $383. Now that is significantly different than when I asked you to approve 1,300 devices. All right, we paid $292 for the 1,300 devices. But if somebody throws theirs out of the car at 55 miles an hour and it's trashed, and I go out and buy one replacement unit, it's gonna cost me $383 to replace that. So that's what we charge students. And if you look at the rest of the handbook, which is on our website, we charge a separate fee for chargers and a separate fee for shells and cases, and that price really hasn't changed. 45 talks about where you can go to get if you need a replacement charger or replacement cord. It used to be that we told them to come to us, but we've actually moved that off to the building offices. So if they need a charger, they can go to the front office and buy a charger. There's no reason to circumvent them or have them come through us. 5A talks about an identification tag, and I'm just saying the supply identification tag on the Chromebook or shell. We talked about not impeding that or covering that up. Students are allowed to decorate their cases, and we're just going to say they can only decorate the top portion of their device, not the bottom, because that's where our scan tags will be for asset tags, serial numbers, so we don't want them to cover it up. And then the case, currently says the case needs to have an ID card in the ID window. This is a different component. It's a shell, not a case, and we're just asking them not to cover up that tag. And then because we're not using a carrying case or not asking them to buy a carrying case, we're going to be putting it in a shell. We'll just scan the whole document, and every place that it says case, we'll replace with shell. So this is just a first reading. Any questions that I can answer for you in that? No?
Do they have insurance?
Pardon?
So you said the replacement for one's like $382.
So we offer an extended warranty. Actually, it's rolled into the overall cost of the device. So what we found when we were using iPads and we charged insurance, what would happen is parents always wanted to know what it costs, and we probably got 60%, 70% participation, and then we would have to go out and bill those people that chose not to, and that was a true nightmare in the front offices. I didn't get flowers from any of the treasurers, but they did appreciate when we went to just rolling it into the whole price, and that's the same one here. The only time students will get charged for something is one, if they destroy it, if they're mistreated or something like that, we'll certainly turn around and place that cost back onto them.
Cool, thanks.
Okay, so I'll be back next month and talk about this more. Any other questions?
Thanks, Tony.
All right, guys, thank you.
Administrative updates and reports.
Well, we have Ben here, new addition to our staff. I don't think any of my other staff, oh, and Carrie Saunders in the back row. She's my new first grade teacher. So we are excited to have both of them. They both did their internship, student teaching in my building, and they did an amazing job. So we're happy that they get to stick with us. Summer's still busy. Spark is going on. Their last day is the 15th. Summer school, the students take iRead tomorrow morning, so we hope that more will pass that. And then their last day is also the 15th. Summer painting is going on. Cleaning is going on. The building looks great. I have two shameless plugs. JA is doing a 5K on July 27th, so feel free to come out and volunteer or run the 5K. And then Blessings in a Backpack is hosting a golf outing the next day, so you can run on Saturday, play golf on Sunday, the 28th, and MES will be sponsoring a team as well. And Josh carried us last year, so I'm hoping I can bribe him to do it again. But anyway, that's us in the summer.
Thank you.
I don't really have a lot to report on MIS, but as the new communications director, I figure I ought to say something. But no, I just, things are going well out there, and nothing changed over the past month, but I do want to say I appreciate the staff that I've worked with at MIS that made it a very tough decision, and I'll miss that group out there. I'm obviously still going to be working with them, but in a different capacity. It's a great school out there, and look forward to my new role, but also look forward to having somebody new in that role out there working with them, keeping that going well. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
So I've got a guest to take the NJHS, last Mrs. Molly to come to the podium. Guests.
Okay, so I was asked to come with new board members, new superintendent, and just kind of brief you on Squire Academy, what we do, and just some success stories. So I brought a couple guests, so you can ask them questions whenever I'm finished throwing numbers at you. So Squire Academy is an alternative school setting, and there are 6 criteria for our program. The state requires 5 criteria for someone to qualify to be a part of an alternative school program. Teen parent, expected parent, academically non-compliant, behaviorally non-compliant, needs to work to financially support their family or themselves, or even intends to withdraw our school system to homeschool. And then we went ahead and we added a 6th component, which was a social and emotional component, like Mike's been questioning earlier. We added this to fit our program. This year, for the 2018-19 year, we had 93 different students from August to May. Every student that comes through our doors has a different plan. We service 7th through 12th graders, and each student that comes through, they're in there for a different reason. 7th and 8th graders come in as a study hall. We focus on building a relationship with those students, assisting them. Typically, when they're recommended to come as 7th or 8th graders, they're probably going to benefit from being in there 9 through 12. So we try to build that relationship with them early on, talk about careers, meet them at their level, and focus on the whole child. Our 9 through 12th graders, some kids come in and they take courses on Apex, whether it's for credit recovery. They just might work better in the Squire Academy setting versus in the classroom setting. Some come in for study hall. It just, out of the 93 students that walk through the door, everybody's schedule looks totally different. Their schedule is suited to fit them and their individual needs. This last year, in our graduating class, we had 20 kids walk across the stage that in some capacity from 7th to 8th grade had been in Squire Academy at some point. That's our largest number so far. Past years, it's been anywhere from 9 to 13, typically as an average. This year it's 20, so a huge number. Over the years, we've been in operation for 5 years. We've graduated 8 teen parents. 2 of those are teen dads. Let's see. I'm trying to think of some other things. Our focus in Squire Academy is to build a relationship with that student, each individual student. We help them academically, we help them emotionally and socially. A lot of times we are that school mom, school dad. I do have Jason Hesting as my lead teacher, and Amanda Schroll is my paraprofessional. So between the 3 of us, our goal, each and every day is to build that relationship, be there for them, whether it's school related or personal life. I brought Jackie McConnell. She graduated 3 years ago? Yeah, 2016. I'll let her just share briefly why she came to Squire Academy, and how it helped her.
Okay, so I am a teen mom. I had my son right before my junior year and my daughter right before my senior year. And going into my senior year, I only needed 3 credits to graduate, and so I was able to attend Squire Academy. I took my 3 courses through Apex, And then I was able to work, and then I started college in the fall, and now I'm going to be a senior at Huntington. And I'm set to graduate next spring, so
Then I brought Marla as a staff member and a mom of a student that we've graduated. So I don't know if Marla wants to share anything as well, or.
My son was a teen dad. He was one of the ones that is a graduate. He struggled in school ever since he was in kindergarten. I worked really closely with Nancy Osbaugh and Dr. Lippy, getting him up to a point where he could go to Squire Academy. He was one of those students who was at Heartland at a young age, because we knew he was going to be one of those kids who worked with his hands. And right now he was supposed to be here, but he's in the fields. And so we knew that's where he was going to go. We just had to get him that high school diploma. That was my husband and I's goal for him, is to at least get him a high school diploma. And it probably wouldn't have gotten done without Squire Academy. And so that's just a great testimony to everybody who works for Dory, and because he speaks highly today of everybody who got him through school. Mainly Dory and Amanda Schroll. At the time, Jason Hesting wasn't as involved. He was just kind of the counselor. But yeah, if he was here today, he would tell you he is a success story. So, and I am also a classroom teacher. I teach algebra at the high school and Algebra 2. And Dory comes into my room and learns Algebra 2. So she can help her kids that I have in my classroom. And we work together collaboratively to try and get those kids their credits that they need and still be in a classroom and not have to take that through Apex. And that has truly been a blessing, that she can help get those kids through. And we just communicate daily. And I think it's really helped those kids.
Yeah, so on a daily basis, we teach, we counsel. Sometimes, have to be firm, have to get on their case. We push them along. We have a lot of kids that we share. They'll go to the high school for a period or two, and then they also do Heartland, and then they'll come to us. So, like I said, of the 93 students that walked through, everybody's schedule looked totally different, and it varied on, based on their needs. We share a lot of kids with Shelley Leifer with the work-based learning. Our relationship, between John and James and Squire Academy and our counselors, it's a great communication, great working relationship. We've seen a lot of success in 5 years. Our door is always open. Please, at any point, come in, check out, talk to our students, see what we do. This summer and each summer, I open the classroom for 4 hours a week, and the kids come in and they work on Apex, just trying to get their credits so they can get out the door and graduate.
Could you explain what Apex is?
Apex is a program that we use to acquire credits. It was something that Manchester Junior Senior High School used before I came on board over here. It's an online program that offers basically any courses you would need for a credit. Your science, social studies, math, English. They have honors courses, there's prescriptive courses, so if you took it in the classroom and failed, you can take prescriptive courses, you can go through and take pre-tests and pass through to get your credit. So it's an online course. Not every student takes Apex. Like I said earlier, those course fees, if a kid gets a course fee for Squire Academy, it's due to the fact that they're enrolled on Apex and that's their Apex seat. So that's their charge. Like my junior high kids that come in for simply study hall, they don't get Squire Academy fee. I communicate that each semester, sometimes weekly, with Nancy Smith, because we have kids coming and going all throughout the year, depending on each individual need. So,
What would you say your mission statement is for Squire Academy? Is this to help all kids,
Yeah, I got that. Okay, so I actually have one written. When we started the program, I had a whole bunch of requirements from the state that I had to document and show that we were in compliance. So that was one of the things that I had to create when we started. And so I have Squire Academy provides all students with learning experience that will enable them to become intelligent, contributing members of our world community. I also have a vision statement. The vision of Squire Academy is to provide a safe learning environment where everyone can openly express their thoughts and ideas, to provide a route to engage students to accept the responsibility for their learning, and to assume a leadership role in developing an educational system for at-risk youth and young adults to engage in lifelong learning strategies.
Is this all online, or do you have teachers? I heard you mention you.
Yes, I have. Okay, so I am the director. I have Jason Hesting, who is my lead teacher. He's in the classroom all day long. And then I've got Amanda Schroll, who's my para. So we can technically only house 20 students a period. It's 15 for the licensed teacher and then 5 for the para. So we have up to 20 students at a time. We like to keep it anywhere from 15 to 17, but that's not always feasible. Usually it kind of pushes the 20. You know, obviously getting higher, it kind of defeats the purpose and you can't meet the needs, the individual needs of the students. So yes, I have Jason in there, and then, you know, I do middle school assistant principal duties as well, so I try to touch base in Squire Academy multiple times a day. A lot of these kids, the kids that graduated this year, a lot of them I had as 5th graders. So I saw them, you know, saw them through 5 through 12. So it's pretty neat. Pretty neat.
Any other board members have questions?
No, I got some comments. Hi, Jackie. Beautiful kids. And so, like, last time we had a school board meeting, I was kind of shaking my head, and it wasn't shaking my head at Pathways, and I actually attended a conference, EWIN, because this is like a different pathway, and like Pathways to me is cellular in other industries. So like in manufacturing, we call it cellular, right? Each person takes their own path. Resources are dedicated to make sure those people are successful. And what I was shaking my head about was testing. I hate testing because it really, what happens is we devalue, so testing is all about retention to me, mental retention, neuroscience. How much can they remember and recite on testing? Doesn't mean that, you know, the education is ineffective, but to me, what I've seen in all these years of education is we devalue people on their retention level through testing, and then some of these kids, I mean, we're actually, at times, we're telling, you know, you're not good enough or you're not as good or something like that. So, like, tonight has been the most educational board meeting to me on everything that we've talked about, to be honest with you. Because I'm going from the past on some of these things, like the counselor thing. Just hearing about Squire Academy, you know, does anything impede you from further success, resource, or anything else? At Squire Academy, like we talk, you know, a lot of these meetings we come in here and we go down this agenda and we're just raising our hand. And tonight I just love the communication, you know, from like the teachers, the principals, and this. So
if we could grow our numbers, but you know, we're limited to only 20 students at a time. So if we were able to have more classroom teachers and be able to house more students at a time, I mean, yeah, we would have tremendous growth. Whether that's a need, I don't feel that it's necessarily a need. Some alternative schools go 5 through 12, so it just depends on how you as a school system want to look at it. We just initially went with 7 through 12, you know, and some are 9 through 12. All alternative schools, I would say many of them are different. You could go to Burkett, you could go to Warsaw, and you'd probably see a totally different setting than what you see in ours. But still, you know, they serve the same purpose. We've been able to take kids as an alternative to expulsion. So instead of expelling a kid can come into Squire Academy and try to get their credits, and then they would only be in Squire Academy. You know, I have some kids that come half days. 3 hours constitutes a full day for a student in alternative ed. And so I do have some students that'll come 3 hours a day and then they leave and they'll go to work. I had a teen mom this fall. She was there 3 hours every morning, diligent, she was dedicated, went to work all afternoon and went home to her baby. So.
yeah, so I also sat on the Learn More Center board. So I'm like looking at that. That's the people coming in that we kind of lost. So that's why I'm asking that question.
I have a really good relationship with Cynthia.
Yeah, they're great.
If there are students that go there that, are fairly young and we could pull back into our school system and try to get them through, she'll send them our way. And then I've had kids contact me, even in the last couple months of school, hey, I want to come back. They don't have credit-wise, there's no way they would graduate on time, so I always, I send them towards Cynthia for that. So we have a good relationship there and try to push kids either my way or her way.
So these 20 kids that graduated, are they a different group than that 44 we talked about, Dr. Lippy? Or is that
44.
The pathways.
pathway graduates that would have?
No, they're all in. If they
Okay,
were in the
that's
pathway,
included?
They would be part of that 44, so, on your question, balance, it's a nice balance. I don't think we're impeded.
No.
We don't want to get overextended either. You don't want to add another person and then you feel like you don't want to just push people into that program that it doesn't fit, right? So what if you only had 12 and then now you're overextended, like you have 4 people there? It's a nice balance right now, and so it's constantly monitored. I think if we see lower, high schools priority, right? Because they're going to get to the end quicker, so we really want to make sure that they're in a position. But if we can address some issues down a 9th, that's on the low side for Squire Academy, maybe plug them in for a year or two, just for maybe some nurturing, for some homework help, and then plug them back into gen ed setting. It's kind of like training wheels. We want to put the training wheels on for a little while, see if we can take one off, see if we can take them off. Oh, no, we need to keep them off for a little bit. And some of these kids need a little earlier.
And this year, we had quite a few kids that mid-year, we were able to, they were able to take their courses at Heartland and the high school. When I say that 20, at some point throughout, their 7th through 12th grade, a couple kids might have come in and they just needed some tough love. They needed us to be on their case, in their face, helping them with homework, guiding them along, and they were able to get caught up and then they could transition back full-time high school. So once they come into Squire Academy, it's not that they're stuck in Squire Academy until they graduate. But there are kids that come in and they don't want to be anywhere but Squire Academy. It's a large classroom. We just create that safe place for them where they can be themselves. Obviously, we have rules and expectations, but it's just a little more flexible. You might come in and see a kid lying on the floor working on his homework. I'm not going to get on a kid about lying on the floor working on his homework. He's doing his thing. He's not disruptive. But in all seriousness, I would invite each of you to come at some point and check it out.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about shifting anything. Anytime I make a comment about the school systems, I think we have a great school system. I'm talking about growth. So what I'm saying is, there's other people out there, non-English speaking, alternative school. These are all just Heartland. These are all just different pathways. I think I'm from industry, so it's cellular, right? It's different resources for different folks fitting their needs, basically. So, that's not a negative comment. I'm just saying, I'm about growing enrollment is all I'm thinking about here, right? And what resource it takes. So what limits you to 20?
State requirement,
Okay.
compliance. I will say in the 5 years that we have been in operation, we've been able to keep a lot of kids in school and get them graduated each year. And a lot of those probably would have quit at some point. I have a lot of kids in there that their parents were ready to pull them, homeschool them, and we were able to keep them in the school system and get them through.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for the guest speakers too. Awesome.
I do better when you ask me questions. I don't like just talking at you. So thank you guys.
Great job, thank you.
Thanks, Dory.
I'm going to keep it really brief tonight. I want to say that I attended the IRB, the Indiana Education Employment Relations Board Conference, and Mr. Markham was able to attend as well. There's a lot of Indiana people who are involved in education, Hoosiers, who don't know how big of an impact that small agency has on schools. And so the conference was nice to go to. They were very good about being concise about reviewing established things. One of the big frustrations, though, and I think that administrators and school boards around the state share that with teachers, is that how we all read the laws that are passed doesn't always match up even remotely with how the Herb Board ends up interpreting them. And that was something that I was a little frustrated with. It was a 6.5-hour conference, and about hour 5.5 got up and said that basically that everything they had talked about, the new changes, well, that's all technically pending because the board hasn't met until August to finalize anything. It could all change. So that was nice, and I'm sure things will change. But we're looking forward to working with the administration to make sure that we're in compliance with all the new rules. There's a lot of new rules, especially with all of the new public hearings and public meetings that we have to have as part of our bargaining. And in preparation for bargaining, one of the new things this year is that we have the two funds, and so I know we've already asked Mr. Markham to make sure that all the money that we're transferring from the education fund to the operations fund will be needed, because that has to be adjusted at the August board meeting to be able to go into effect before the bargaining window opens in September. So one last thing I'd just like to share is that the Teachers Association will be doing its annual book giveaway at Fun Fest this year on Thursday and Saturday again. We've been doing this for a long time, and I'd just like to thank a couple groups that put money towards this. This is a great thing. Any child that comes up gets a free book, and we have books in several different languages as well, at all different levels. I want to thank ISTA, Manchester Lions Club, Kiwanis Club, Tri-Kappa, and the Rotary Club for donating to support that. Last year we gave out over 400 books, and we will be giving out just as many this year, it looks like. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Markham.
I'll be brief as well. Just currently working on the 2020 budget, and we'll be bringing that to you at the August meeting for you to see, and then ask for approval to advertise that at the August meeting.
Dr. Grimo?
Just want to let you know that we're working on hiring an EL director at this time, in conjunction with our Spanish position. Logan Haston used to have that position and he resigned, so working on that and including a stipend from our NESP grant, which is our newcomer grant money. So we're looking at that position. We're also looking at adding an EL paraprofessional at the high school. And the biggest reason for that is when this director has to leave, we want to ensure that instruction continues. And it hasn't been doing that in the past. So we will be using that same grant money. We did get an extra allocation this year of $5,000. So we're going to use that mainly to get an instructional aide or a paraprofessional in that position. Most of that salary should be covered by that grant. So I want you to know that we will be posting that position and heading that direction. Also, reminder of Monday, you will be meeting with me in my office, and we'll be doing a training from 9 a.m. to 3:30. You'll have breakfast and lunch provided for you. And we're looking at an agenda that includes boardsmanship, job orientation, just review some of where we have been as a district and a lot of the changes that have happened, and start looking at the vision and mission. And I'm going to pass out to you, I keep saying strategic plan, and some of you are maybe questioning what that is a little bit, and I did already share this with Mr. Hensley a little bit, because I think this is one of the best depictions of what a strategic plan really needs to look like in a school corporation. And if you look at this, you'll have the green and you have the blue. The green is where the board is the heaviest part, which is the mission, the vision, and the guiding principles. And that's where we will start. And as you go down, when we start getting into research, that's where you're going to be strong. But then it starts to bring in the community and the administrators and all of the staff members. And as we get down on that, where we're doing the execution, that's going to all be staff. So I feel like this is a good representation of where we're headed, and I just wanted to be able to share that with you, because I keep using the words, and I know some of you are a little confused of where I'm headed. So I wanted to share that with you. Also, when I first began, I talked to you about a first 100 days and what it was I was going to accomplish, and I want to share with you real quick. This is the exact document that I handed to you when I interviewed with you and told you this was my plan for the first 100 days. And if you can see in red, what I have there is what I've been able to accomplish by meeting with people through the Community Foundation. I've met with the Heartland team, the county superintendents, the MTA, went out to seek out community members. I've got lots of people lined up I'm still speaking with. We have that board retreat. It ended up being a training because we couldn't get 2 days together. So we're still working on that. But I'm not going to insult your intelligence. You can read through that. But I just wanted to give you an update of where I am at in this process. And if you have any questions, please let me know. And then one of the board members brought up ALICE training, and if that's something that they wanted to look into. And I did talk to Officer Birch about that. And you have a couple of options of whether you want to do like a half-day training or you just want information. You want more information, and he said that would probably take like an hour session. So I'm asking you to think about that. I'll send that out again in my memo that I give to you every Friday, and you think about what you want to do there and what you want that to look like. So that was just a request. And Mr. Markham has a meeting set up with Belvia Gray from Baker Tilly, July 23rd, correct? To look into a GO bond possibility for the roof and the boilers. I know we kind of threw that out. Nothing's set in stone. It's just exploring possibilities if we can finance this for maybe a year or two, why we go through the strategic planning process and decide where we're at as a district and what direction we want to head. So we will keep you informed about how that happens, and they'll probably want to come in and present to you. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Camille.
You're welcome.
And I am going to do the Heartland Report, and it's going to be short and sweet. I was not able to make last month's meeting. So Mr. Hobbs was kind enough to send me this, and the main highlight for their meeting was getting a $64,140 grant from the 80/20 Foundation towards the purchase of a $106,900 wire EDM CNC machine. They'll be getting an additional $10,000 from the Community Foundation, and he's working on another $10,000 grant from another foundation, and the Career Center Board will make up the balance, and they plan to have that in place when the students report to school in August. He met with Zimmer Biomet, and they're wanting to partner to hire students from the Heartland Career Center, and this piece of equipment will go a long ways towards accomplishing that goal, along with, I had it right at the tip of my tongue. It's some special kind of lathe that they use in the surgical field, but it just went. So with that, I will close the Heartland Career Report.
Hello, how are you guys? I'm M.A. Hire, your school nurse, and give you a highlight of my life of 2018 and 19. First of all, when you guys were talking about policies and procedures and standardizing, I will let you know that all of the health stuff is standardized amongst all the buildings. I did that 15 years ago when I started. So that's done. What did immunizations, Usually I have a really high percentage, but this year the seniors at the high school kicked my butt, so took my percentage down. Hepatitis A has been added to the seniors as a mandatory. Physicians are not quite on board with that. I'm really pushing it. I mean, it's required by the state, but I can't withhold somebody from graduating because they don't have it done. But I'm telling, they need to have it done. Hepatitis A is here. Indiana used to have 20 cases a year for many, many years. And this past year, they had over 400 up to this date. So it's here and they need to get vaccinated. I will say our food service staff really got on board with that, and they're not required to get vaccinated. But when I had the health department here giving school vaccines in May, April, May, a lot of the the food service members paid for it on their own. And, or actually, no, it ended up being free to them. I forgot about that. The state paid for it because they were food service. So that was nice. Legislation, there's a couple things that I'm looking or watching. There's HEA 1063, a Stop the Bleed training program. This is like the tourniquet kits, whatever. You need to have a minimum of 5 staff members to be trained in order to participate in the program. So I'm waiting for those resources to come out and see what that looks like, to see what I can offer you with that. Also, there's an HB 1089. I'm absolutely in love with this. It's care of students with seizures. It is a training requirement that any staff that has direct contact with a student with seizures will be trained. Previously, staff has had the option to refuse that, and I have had classroom teachers refuse that they didn't want to be trained and take the responsibility of a seizure student in their classroom. So now that's been taken care of for me, so I'm excited about that. There's also a couple out there on insulin and standing orders. I'm just kind of waiting to see what the state presents on that, and then hopefully be able to make an educated decision. Wellness team, we're doing good. We were kind of quiet as far as a team, but we're always constantly monitoring and seeing what's going on. I want to applaud MES and Mrs. Corris for, I've been trying to do a sharing table there, and she just kind of did it, and there's a table and the kids put food on it that they haven't eaten or touched, and then somebody else can go get it, and it's going really well, so I'm very pleased with that. Also, the high school has their coffee bar, The Bean, and I am really happy with that group, that they're consulting with Becky Landis, that their products are in compliance with our Smart Calculator guidelines. So we've been kind of preaching this for many, many years, and it's finally getting around that people need to kind of ask what we're serving, what we're providing for our kids. We had a blood drive in November, and we had 114 units of good blood, so we saved 342 lives, and we were granted a $750 scholarship to give to a graduating senior. So that was awesome. Diabetes is my big life here. I have 3 students that are diabetic. This next school year, they'll be in 6th grade, 7th grade, and in the high school, she'll be a sophomore. So my driving time and my busy time during there is not going to be decreased at all. So I'll be running around. Everybody's been very patient with me. Dr. Lippy, stop. I try, but so anyway, it's going. We'll make it. We'll make it work and keep everybody safe and healthy. Probably one of my highlights of this past year is I was invited to be on a panel discussion for autism and safety in a school setting for a conference at Ball State. And I was like, how did you find me and why me? But anyway, I went, and it was a great experience. A lot of great information was shared. I was really pleased to be able to participate in that. A couple other things that I've done is I was able to apply for a $1,000 Good Samaritan grant through the Community Foundation to assist one of our families in need. I'd also offered that to a couple other families, and they had refused it, but we did that. Also, we had an 8th grade student who was not going to be able to do the Washington, D.C. trip. I had staff come to me, that little girl needed to go, and if I could make that happen. So I contacted one of my sugar angels, and we got the fees paid, spending money, food money, and so that was a happy ending. A big project that I've been trying to work on, and Mr. Sell, we've talked about a lot, is the body safety program that we have had here at our schools through the DCS, and it's just not what we wanted. It wasn't friendly to the kids. We wanted something that was informative yet didn't scare them. And so I had contacted SCAN a year ago. They provide programs that are free of charge, and ended up talking with a girl there who was a graduate from Manchester University. She said, we don't have the program, but if we get it, we'll let you know. She called me this year. We've got it. Can I come? So we got her on. Mrs. Corris and Mr. Self evaluated it. We had teacher input, kid input, and so we're on again for next year. So I'm real excited about that. I think that's about all my excitement. One of my goals for this year is to partner with the RISE classroom for laundry services. I do laundry for all the health rooms, and I'm trying to streamline some of my stuff to give me more time to do others. So hopefully Erica and I can work out a deal on that. Any questions?
The Hepe, what is that? What is the deal with the medical? What's your personal opinion on that, like with the doctors? Is there resistance to it?
No, it's new, and doctors do not stay on top of immunizations like I do, or like the health department does. That's just, they know they're there and they know there are these requirements, but as far as that window that it needs to be done or why this has been put on board, I don't know.
So
some
it's more
doctors
like
are
a
great
knowledge
about
education.
being on and others aren't.
Cool, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for all you do.
Oh, no problem.
Comments from visitors on all agenda items at this time?
Hello. I'm here to give another plug for Squire Academy. My daughter,
Excuse me, would you say?
Lillian. Lillian's a
thank you.
sophomore. She attended Squire Academy this year. Our world came to an end in October. She's a self-harmer. She wanted to kill herself. I didn't know what to do. The school is not equipped. They're not. In fact, I came to Jeremy. I don't know if you remember that, Jeremy, that day. But because of Dory, my daughter has a timer for when school starts for 1920. Are you kidding me? She is ready to go back to school. Squire Academy helped her. And she is one of those children who learns differently. You may see her on the floor with her earbuds in, because that's the way she learns. She learns via Apex. She is not a conventional student. She didn't enjoy the classroom. That was toxic to her. And me being an educator, I'm like, you're gonna listen to your teacher. That doesn't work for her. She suffers from depression and anxiety. That's a real illness. The same as you would take a medication for your heart, she takes it so she can survive. So Squire Academy, I don't think she would have come to school in October. I really don't. So we had that meeting that day. Mr. Bisher was there, Mrs. Metzger was there, and we walked away out of that meeting, and Lillian was like, they're gonna do that for me? She had no idea. She had no idea that that existed in our school building. She had no idea. She just knew of all those mean teachers who wouldn't teach her the way she wanted to be taught. So she was on the honor roll this year. She'd never been on the honor roll. Never. That's because of Dory. So people, they dog Squire Academy. They do. I'm not one. If it goes away, I'll be right there to support it, because mental health is a big deal. It's not going away. My girl is the girl next door. I mean, some of you don't know that she suffers what she suffers from. We're a normal, all-American family, but it's real. And without Squire Academy, I mean, she wanted to go to Northfield, Southfield. I'm like, those teachers are going to be everywhere, trust me. And Mr. Bisher, he really, you know, he didn't, I mean, he made Squire Academy happen for us. And when we met Dory that day, yeah, she walked out and she just couldn't believe that there was a teacher like Dory that was going to let her do that. She had no idea. And so, you know, if that's happening to Lillian, you know there's more girls, boys out there that are silent. They're the troublemakers in the classroom, but they're not. I mean, that's their way of expressing themselves, whether it be right or wrong. We know it because we see it in the classroom. But Squire Academy is, yes, you need to go in there someday and see for yourself what goes on, because they're amazing. And when your 16-year-old, almost 16, wants to go to school, I mean, that doesn't happen for everybody. So, yeah, we need shirts that said, I'm a Squire Academy mom or something, I don't know. But anyhow, and Lillian's schedule, like Dory said, she goes back and forth. So, yeah, walkway would be super sweet. But that's, okay, that's another day. But yeah, she goes back and forth because that works for her. She needs time to decompress from that environment to come back over to Squire Academy, work on her Apex, do what she needs to do. If that means get a snack, then get a snack. I mean, it works. So this year, the same thing. It's back and forth, and it works for her. So I'm here for Squire Academy, and I have one more. I know Anita was going to ask, when are we going to get paid for back pay, retro pay? Because I work at Manchester Intermediate School, so when will that happen?
Good question. I'll work with Darla on that tomorrow. Since it was approved,
Okay.
now we can figure all that out, and we'll send out a mass email.
Just curious.
Are you going on vacation soon?
I've been on vacation, Disney World. I need my money.
Thank you. Any other comments from visitors? Comments from board members?
Great testimony.
One question, is it too early to have enrollment? Do we have projected enrollment for this upcoming year? Or is it too early?
It probably is really early. We need to wait till registration to kind of gauge what we're gonna have. Not too far away.
I just do have one more comment for Squire Academy. Like, so the state sets a minimum of 20. I just see that as I see people out there going to homeschool that could really help. And all these kids are unique, right? And every one of us, I don't care who you are, but sometime if you haven't had a downtime in life, you will, right? And the earlier, it seems like more, kind of like that, we're all unique. Like, why is it, do you have any idea why it's set at 20?
It's per teacher.
Okay, so it's a teacher.
So if we would add a
limit.
second teacher, we can have
Okay,
more
good.
students.
Perfect, thank you.
Just for clarification, we have 4 new board members and a new superintendent, and this Squire Academy presentation was supposed to be in June. I reached out to Dr. Lippy and Dr. Grimeau with questions because we kept hearing about Squire Academy, but we have a new superintendent and 4 new board members, and we didn't really know what it was. So that's why we asked for this tonight. And sounds like it's a pretty good thing to me. So,
It's an awesome thing.
any other comments from board members?
Welcome aboard to all the new teachers and Randy's new role and et cetera, et cetera. I got a great meeting for me, so.
And with that, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
There, we're done. Let's get out of here.
Look, got it. Good job on that, Tony.
Bunch of stuff to sign. Mike Lee.